Today we're going to be talking about the finals, EU LCS and NA finals. For EU, we're going to start with first. We have Unicorns of Love and Fnatic. And Unicorns of Love is, I guess, considered the underdog, or it's considered to be the ones that people want to win because they do things outside the meta. They were fourth or fifth place team when they started into the playoffs. They beat Gambit. They ended up being the first place team, SK Gaming, and now they're in the finals against Fnatic. On the other hand, you have Fnatic, which is these longtime EU giant, as I would call them. You know, they've been in the playoffs 5 splits in a row. The legendary Yellow Star, the support for Fnatic, is a veteran. He's got that experience. He's been to Worlds multiple times. Fnatic's also known for winning World 1, first Worlds, Season 1, even though it's a completely different team. So my prediction for this, before I get to that, let's talk a little bit about Unicorns of Love and Fnatic more in depth. Unicorns of Love, like I said, they play things out of the meta. They picked a lot of weird, strange junglers. They had Gnar jungle, they had Shaco jungle, TF jungle, all these outside of the meta picks, things that you usually won't see in the LCS, really throwing people through a loop. And like I said, people want them to win. They have them as a favorable team, and they're doing good. They're doing really good. Um, they are. I'm shocked. I'm kind of shocked that they've gotten this far, but they're unique. On the style, on the not on the fly really, but unique, weird picking style they have ultimately works out for them. Beating some of the teams, beating the first place team SK, and they're the first teams to beat a first place seed in the LCS in 5 splits. So that congratulations to Unicorns of Love. A little bit more in detail. They're a new team. They just got into the LCS this split. And watching Power of Evil, Alex Leach said, is like watching him back in Moscow 5 days. It just brings back good memories. He's a great mid laner. He does great things, and he can carry the team. Just like Alex Itch did back in the day for Moscow 5, and like I said, he complimented him there. But more in detail here, I just want to talk about the semifinals, them versus SK. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it got all the way to Game 5. SK Gaming was fighting their way back. We thought we were going to have an upset. Unicorns 11 might have been out. SK was going to get advance. So Game 5, things were doing really good in the bot lane. Hillsong and Vardags is doing great in the bot lane. Their Caitlyn was really good, even though the auto attack bug is very noticeable in that game. But they did very good. They were very just super fed, beating Forgiven, beating Nymph, bot lane. And it really comes down to picking bans. They put Forgiven on a Corki, which it's not a bad. It's a utility, more of a utility ADC, poke ADC, but ultimately not the best pick. And ultimately, gonna win. They're gonna win the late game. So they had Caitlyn outbeating Forgiven, which is considered the best ADC, the bot lane. Power Evil doing things on Orianna this game. He's still the first Baron because of a misbite from Severskin. He was just ultimately great. He was doing really good. He was beating Fox on Zed, against Zed, I should say, with an Orianna, and he's just playing these matches, and he's doing really well, and probably one of the better mid laners, if not the best mid laner, give or take on situations in EU right now. In the jungle, a lot of people love Kikis. They are big fans of Kikis. The way he jungles and the way he does things, and just who he can jungle. When you can jungle a TF, and when you can jungle Gnar, when you can jungle Udyr, who was not considered like right in the meta, and really a strange, unique pick. They pull it out, and they're just like, oh my god, this is great. He's awesome. And he's just doing a really good job, dominant jungler, getting his lanes fed, does what he needs to do, and can play these weird, unique junglers which can throw a lot of junglers off and kind of, not really invade, not really know what Kikis is up to, which is another thing, which leads us to our top lane, which I'll probably chop his name, but I'm going to say Vizitrachi. He was doing really good. In the top lane, Ultimately playing the Poppy, which Poppy got really popular for a little bit. Everybody's like, oh my god, LCS Poppy, when would we ever see that? All this other ordeals, but very dominant, strong top lane. Also picking those kind of weird out of the meta picks. And just ultimately a great team, a new refreshing team and ultimately doing really good. Came up, showed forward, beating one of the Giants, Gambit, in the quarterfinals, and then beating the first place seed, like I said, against SK. Looking at SK in the top lane, or in Game 5 versus them, SK did throw away the game, in my opinion, with the Baron calls. Like I said, Power Evil took the first one with an Orianna ult. And the second call, they rushed it. They pulled it almost like a Gambit, where they're like, all right, we don't have anything else. Fuck it, let's do Baron because we killed a few people. They were too low. Power of Evil, or not Power of Evil, but Veers Chachi teleports back in. They're TPing in. People are close enough, and SK ultimately is too low, loses that Baron, and loses that fight, and it just kind of steamrolls from there. And Forgiving couldn't carry anymore because he was on Corki, and they were more of a mid, not really a late game champion, but more of a mid game. And Caitlyn outpowered him, outfought him, and just ultimately did better than SK and kicked SK out. Fnatic, on the other hand, like I said, they're giants for a long time. They didn't have to go in the quarterfinals. They were fighting. They made it to second place with a whole new team. The only one that's been on the roster and stayed on the roster was Yellow Star from last split. And this team, once again, you can just see how Fnatic can recruit people and how Fnatic gets their team together because you have people from all over the country and all different languages, and you can ultimately see that they work together and they synergize well and they get first place. Or not first place, but second place, and they get to the semifinals where they fought H2K, which is in my opinion probably the most exciting ones in the LCS playoffs so far. It was a back and forth game. You didn't really know who was going to win. H2K was on fire, doing really well, and they came in, fought well, took the first game and kind of threw Fnatic back. Fnatic took the second game. H2K took the third game. You're like, oh my God! Fnatic comes back and wins 2 games in a row, which once again, like I said, the Giants of EU, they've been here. Well, not them personally, the players, but Fnatic as a team has been in every single playoffs. They've been to Worlds. They are world champion at season 1. So breaking them down into now the finals with against Unicorns of Love, we're just going to go through the lanes. You have Steelback and Yellowstar, even though Yellowstar is a veteran and has more experience than Hosing and Vardags. I think the bot lane will go in favor of Unicorns of Love, and that's because of Steelback. Steelback is more of a passive ADC. He's not really aggressive. He's been criticized this for multiple times. He's doing well, don't get me wrong. He does fine in his lane. He holds his own. But I think in retrospect, the Unicorns of Love has a better bot lane. And I don't think significantly more. I just think a little bit more. But it will come down to pick and ban. Steelback is doing well. He does what he needs to do for the team. And ultimately, a lot of people call him as a cleanup, or he just there to sweep the kills and not really carry the game. Now we're going to go to the mid lane. You have Fabevin versus Power of Evil. I'm also giving this to Unicorns of Love again. Power of Evil, like I said, is doing amazing things, carrying the game on his shoulders. Can you pick very versatile, big champion pool in my opinion. He does well with safe picks and can ultimately, I think, compete head to head with Fabevin. And I don't think Fabevin's really doing bad. He's doing very well also. He usually carries the game for Fnatic. He usually gets fed and is very strong, even though in his games Fnatic had this weird lane swap where he was like top lane at first and then he was with the support and he was kind of behind, and they kind of put him behind ultimately, and it was just a weird game spot and lane swap in the first game versus H2K. But Power Evil overall, I think, will take this one. Stronger laning opponent. Not saying that Fabevin couldn't keep up with him. I think he'll keep up with him. He'll go even. You're probably not going to see a lot of kills here. They're probably going to both play very safe. It's really going to come down more to the jungle, and I think maybe the top lane to gank or put pressure in other lanes, especially the bot lane or top lane, which we move to the jungle now. We have Reignover versus Kikis. Even though I love Kikis and Kikis is really doing well, I'm gonna give this one to Reignover. He's a really dominant jungler. He plays with just like Sivirdskin, and I think that's really powerful and ordeal when picking when having a jungler, because when you're aggressive and you're confident, you can do your dives are coordinated and you know when to gank and you're not wasting a lot of times to gank. That's very important. And I think that if Kikis picks these weird unique junglers, I think it will really put him behind. A lot of people are like, look, Gnar jungle beat Skin though, and it didn't even matter because he missed his smite and blah 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 blah. Reignover's just been dominant. He's doing well. I'm not. I hope he doesn't miss his smites, but things happen. We're only human, and I think if Kikis picks those weird, unique junglers, he really can put himself behind. And I don't think Reignover would be afraid to go into his jungle, be aggressive, maybe kill him in his jungler if he can get some team help, which I'm sure he will. His team comes in, collapses, and I don't think we're gonna see a lot of weird, strange picks from Kikis, which leaves me to the top lane. Vizichachi um, and versus Huni. Now, I'm kind of biased on this one, I'll be honest, right off the bat. I'm a big Huni fan. I think Huni is really good, and I've loved Huni from when he's come in because of his backstory. I've told this story all the time, but he was on Samsung Blue as a sub. That wasn't his original top laner. And Fnatic was scrimming them at Worlds, and this is already known. And they were scrimming with Samsung Blue, and the games were kind of close. And Soaz was doing well against the top lane, and everything was going well. Well, when the Samsung Blue put in their sub, which was Huni, Huni pretty much took it on their shoulders, or his shoulders, to carry the game. Like, he was the one who was like, all right, I'm here, I'm the top lane, I'm going to carry this game. And pretty much win his lane every time, out CS, out damage, outperform Soaz in the top lane, and Fnatic was like, we want this person really bad. We want this person really bad. If they could recruit somebody, and they did. They got Huni. And I'm not saying anything against Vizichachi. He's doing good. There's nothing wrong with him. He's very top, dominant laner too. He went up against Freddy, held his own. I think he can play these smite top laners if he wanted to, or he could play more of a tank jungler. He can kind of fit in the meta where what Power of Evil or Unicorns of Love wants to do. I don't know why I keep saying Power of Evil, but I keep saying Power of Evil's team, and I'm like, that's not the name. Maybe you should change the name. Maybe the mid laner's name should be like Unicorns of Love, and the name of the team should be like Power of Evil or Power of Evil. Anyway, going off that though, who do I have winning this? So you got the mid lane going to Unicorns of Love, you got the bot lane going to the Unicorns of Love, you got the top lane going to Fnatic. In my opinion, Huni just is a little bit more confident and more dominant of a player in the top lane, and you got the jungle going to Fnatic. So it's a 2-2 split either way, depending on what you look at. Who do I have it going to? I have a 3-2 victory going to Fnatic. And just because Fnatic, like I said, they've been here, they're experienced, the managers know what's going on. Yellowstar can speak on his own experience and kind of know how things are ran here. He's got that relaxation. Like I said, the bot lane's really close. I think Yellowstar is a better veteran support and will outbeat Hillsing. But in retrospect, Vardags, is a better, ultimately, a little bit more aggressive ADC, but it won't mean they lose the lane to Fnatic, or Fnatic won't lose to Unicorns of Love. Mid lane, once again, Fibgevin will keep up with Power of Evil. I don't think Power of Evil is that much better than when we're looking at tier levels. He's not that much better than Power Evil is not that much better than Fibgevin, so it will be very close, and it will really come down to the jungle and the top lane, how teleports work in the pick and ban phase, ultimately. And I think the weird picks won't ultimately work here for Unicorns of Love because I think Fnatic's ready, they're focused, and they're just a very strong, dominant team. Now going to NA, so I don't take too much of your time. I know it's very long, and your guys like, he's still talking, but going to NA, this is the hard one and the most boring one in my opinion. We have the Giants of NA again, TSM versus Cloud9. Woo-hoo! Yet again, for the, fourth time? I don't even know. We're in the playoffs again. We already know who Cloud9 is. TSM really hasn't changed anything in their roster. They're the same team. They're both veterans. They know how this works. Cloud9 looking at the weaker side now because once again they started the split wrong, or not split wrong, but they started the split weak. They were losing a lot of games. They were struggling. And you know, High, it was all on High's shoulders. He was like, "Oh, High's playing like shit. You know, he's got the wrist thing going on. He has the collapsed lung. His shot calling's just not good. It's just all over the place. What's going on?" Well, same thing happens as usual in NA. You know, we get to the end of the split here, and CLG was being this dominant team and looking like they could actually compete and contest for that #1 spot in NA, and here they go again. They choke right at the last couple games of the LCS, making Cloud9 get into second place, and you know, you're going to the playoffs now. COG gets ultimately eliminated. Cloud9 goes against Team Liquid. Team Liquid, everybody's like, Team Liquid's got this. Piglet's on his best, you know. They worked out all their problems. Team Liquid now not going to be fourth anymore. Cloud9's really struggling. You look at Phoenix versus High, and Phoenix is ultimately doing better. And lo and behold, here we are again. Team Liquid's on its fast to go to fourth place, and TSM being the most dominant team, that really not having that many troubles. The only complaint that I have, which we'll talk about a little bit more, is that they put everything and all their resources into Bjergsen. They do this all the time, and I feel like ultimately this is not going to be the most successful and most beneficial to them. But it's the way they win, and that's just how their team is structured. And nobody in NA really can beat it right now, so they are the most dominant, most strong team. But going off that, so now we have TSM, Cloud9, yet again. And I'll just do the same thing that I did. We're going to go to the bot lane with Lemonation Sneaky versus Wild Turtle and Lustboy. I'm actually going to give this one to TSM. Why do I give this one to TSM? It's because Lemonation's been a little shaky. He's not been doing the best. I mean, he's doing well. He's really stepped it up in this playoffs, I think. He was really giving a hard time to Team Liquid in Game 5, which ultimately sets up for that level 1 skirmish and giving into Cloud9's favor. And he is Nautilus play, which I don't think they're going to ban because it's not really a big deal. It may be picked, but not banned from TSM. Is really not a big deal. In retrospect, but Lustboy's just been very dominant. He plays those utility supports really well. That's how he just fits the team well because, you know, like I said, they throw everything to Bjergsen, and he could play Lulu, he could play Janna, and I just think that ordered Thresh. And I just don't think the Nautilus pick is going to be that like detrimental to the bot lane. Like they're like, oh my god, a Nautilus, what do I do? And then you have Wild Turtle and Sneaky. Sneaky's been on fire. I'm saying this right off the bat. I think Sneaky in NA is probably the best, if not the best, ADC right now in NA. He's just playing extremely well. His positioning is pretty good. Just his awareness and just keeping up with the game and just ultimate all better. Just all better. CS wise, team fighting wise, he's just there. And even when Cloud9 struggles, he's just doing well ultimately. And he says even though he fell behind from some people, or he's falling behind, he picks up that average play and he's like, look, I'm not behind anymore. I keep up in farm. I'm actually ahead. And he just can adapt quickly, and he can still play those old ADCs such as Lucian, like it's a god tier. Like Lucian is still the OP most broken ADC, which he's not anymore. But I do give it to Lustboy and Wild Turtle, and I hope to see Wild Turtle really pick it up this game and play like he played in IEM. When he plays in the LCS, sometimes you see Wild Turtle do really well, and he can do really well, and then sometimes you're like, my god, this is the guy we want to see all the time. We want to see Wild Turtle carry and go insane and just do these double lift slash, you know, insane mechanics, Piglet style, world champion craziness. But I think it's because Wild Turtle ultimately gets bored and tired of the game, so he ultimately kind of trolls a little bit. And I don't know. Sometimes I feel like he doesn't take the game as like a job. It's like, oh yeah, I'm good at this game anyway. I don't have to worry. That's just my opinion. We're gonna go to the mid lane. This is self-explanatory. I'm also giving this to TSM for you know obvious reasons. You have Bjergsen versus High. Bjergsen is the best mid laner, hands down, in NA right now. Nobody can really keep up with him. Nobody can compete with him. There's nobody. There's nobody that can compete with him. High's really been struggling right now. He's not doing the playing the best, and High's limited champion pool is really going to be his weakness. And High only can play Zed and Lissandra. And I feel like Zed's going to be banned out all the time. If it's not banned, it could be picked by Bjergsen. And I feel like Bjergsen has a bigger champion pool, can ultimately play whatever he wants and do well in lane and not really go. Or he's never really fallen behind or really been really that shitty, no matter how good or bad the mid lane's doing against him. I think ultimately Bjergsen, you know, like I said, takes a week and he has a champion down. He's played Urgot. When he grinded a Urgot out a week, he pulled it out in LCS, uses it. Plays Cho'Gath, even though they lost that game against Cloud9, which I'll talk about. He still did well, and he wasn't dead, and they put a lot of resources into Cho'Gath, but I don't think you'll see him play Cho'Gath. But that's besides the point. Go in the jungle, we got Santorin and Meteos. Meteos, I hope, picks more of a carry jungler, doesn't pick this tank meta. You're probably going to see it because I think Sejuani is going to be ultimately banned. But I hope he picks more of a fighter slash tanky fighter slash bruiser jungler. Why do I say this? Is because I think Meteos thrives on things. I see if he gets a Nidalee, or if he could play Gragas himself, or he gets a Lee Sin, I think he'll do really well. Santorin, on the other hand, rocking on Gragas, I think that played a vital role in why TSM won and how things were going for the TSM versus Tips games. It's Santorin doing great, keeping up the jungle, following with the jungle pressure, even though he was 3 buff behind, or he's getting invaded all the time. He's always keeping up. He gets those ganks off. He's, once again, one of those time precision junglers who, you know, knows when to dive, when to gank, and not wasting a lot of time, and just ultimately that utility tank slash jungler that they need for TSM. Who do I give this to? This is really close, and like I said, it really comes down to who Meteos picks, but I'm going to give it to Santorin. He's just been playing well ultimately, and just doing ultimately better than Meteos throughout the split also. And last but not least, you have the top lane, Balls versus Dyrus. So I'm ultimately have to go with Balls on this one. Why am I going to go for Balls over Dyrus on this one and give this over to Cloud9 is because Dyrus, like I said, he's known now for going behind in lane and then coming back later in the game and being successful and being what they need for this certain team. But how Cloud9 plays and how how dominant Balls is and that carry role, I feel that Balls will be successful and Meteos will take this to advantage the gank. Now, this is where I wanted to talk about. TSM puts a lot of utility and all their strengths into Bjergsen. They've put it into Bjergsen and then they feed the bot lane, which is Wild Turtle. Well, Wild Turtle is a situational pick, so we don't ultimately know if he'll do good with being fed or if he'll do really bad. So everything goes into Bjergsen. That really depends on what the picks are for TSM ultimately as a whole. You have Less Boy picking utility support usually with Janna or Lulu. And you also have Dyrus with the top lane being, you could also pick Lulu and or a tank to be in that front line for Bjergsen. Bjergsen pretty much picks anything, and then you have that utility jungler from Santorin, sorry. So ultimately, who's going to win this? Cloud9 or TSM? Well, Cloud9 has to do a few things. One, they have to shut down Bjergsen. And I think this is extremely difficult. Bjergsen has a big champion pool. I don't think it's as easy as you think. Like I said, they put a lot of resources and utility into Bjergsen. Dyrus in the top lane, like I said, Balls can carry, and Balls will probably be getting fed and being camped, and Meteos will be camping Dyrus. But ultimately, will that be enough? It'll come down to the bot lane. It will be really coming down how Sneaky plays and ultimately how the bot lane comes out. And I think the bot lane will go even, if not a little bit in favor of TSM, a little bit in favor of Cloud9, depending on, you know, lane swaps and picks and bans. And ultimately, if, like I said, it comes down to how well Elimination's going to play during this playoffs. So we bring it back. Who's going to ultimately win, TSM or Cloud9? And once again, I'm going to put it in a 3-2 favor of TSM. And it hurts me a little bit to say TSM. I'm not against TSM. I'm not really a big NA fan ultimately. But why TSM? TSM just ultimately playing better. Like I said, Bjergsen's being a big part of that and just ultimately doing better than High. High's been having a lot of struggles and just ultimately they had to not do as much. TSM have to do as much as Cloud9 has to climb up and beat these teams. TSM, who was in the semifinals against Hip, beat Tip with a dominance force, even though Tip was on like this great winning streak and this awesome just steamrolling through people and just doing great. They beat Tip 3-1, whereas Cloud9, they struggled against Team Liquid the first two games, and ultimately Cloud9 came back and won 3 games in a row. But TSM, like I said, even if they're behind, they still can play from behind. They can come back. They ultimately outperform the other team usually. And even if Dyrus does get camped, and which I'm like 85% sure that Dyrus will be camped and balls will be fed, I don't think that will be enough. I think they need to have a lot of CC for Bjergsen. I think Bjergsen needs to be focus banned and be forced on a champion that's not as mobile. Their game against Cloud9, their last game against Cloud9, Bjergsen picked Cho'Gath, even though that he caught somebody out with a rupture, which was High, and High was playing Lissandra. They ultimately made Bjergsen immobile. Like, he wasn't quick enough. He couldn't really assassinate anybody. Yes, he did a lot of damage and he put out a lot of damage, but I think, and he became really tanky too. But I think, he locked them down, or they switched targets or caught somebody out, it threw TSM off, and they couldn't just recover as quickly. And TSM and Cloud9 both have great laning, end game fights. They both know when to go for Dragon, they know when to force a fight, when not to fight. So it's really going to come really close, but I think ultimately it's going to go to TSM for obvious reasons. The mid lane's really struggling for Cloud9. Bot lane is a little bit in their favor. And I just feel like Dyrus is going to be put on those tanky kind of utility support champions where, yeah, even though he's behind and even though Balls is getting fed, I don't think it's ultimately going to be enough. And ultimately, this is going to be in TSM's favor, and TSM's going to win again. But yes, I've given it a 3-2 in TSM's favor, very close. But that is it. That is my LCS playoffs predictions. EU, you have Fnatic winning 3-2, and you have NA, TSM winning 3-2. Very close games, I think. I think it's going to be most exciting playoffs, and we're going to see a lot of unusual things, I think, more in the EU side, more upsets in the EU side than we are going to see in the NA side. But that is it. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.